You open the hive and it's silent. No hum, no movement, just empty wax combs, a queen still surrounded by a handful of young bees, and honey nobody came back to eat. This is what beekeepers found across the world in the winter of 2006. They called it colony collapse disorder. Nobody knew why, but what you are about to discover is far stranger and far more personal, because the question isn't really about bees, it's about what disappears with them. Your food, your flowers, the color of the world you live in. Bees are not just insects buzzing through your backyard. They are one of the last threads holding your plate together. Pull that thread, and what's left? Here's the part most people don't know. 1 in every 3 bites of food you eat exists because a bee visited a flower first. Almonds, apples, coffee, cotton, even the alfalfa that feeds the cows that make your milk. Bees don't just make honey. They move pollen, the plant equivalent of DNA, from flower to flower, letting fruit and seed actually form. Without that movement, a flower is just a flower, pretty, useless, a dead end. So picture it. Tomorrow, every bee on Earth vanishes. Honeybees, bumblebees, the 4,000 wild native species most people have never even heard of. Gone. What happens next isn't instant. It's slow, and that's what makes it terrifying. Week 1, almost nothing changes. Supermarket shelves still look full, but in almond orchards in California, 90% of the world's supply, flowers begin dropping unfertilized. No bees means no nuts. Farmers who depend on rented hives, trucked in by the semi-load every spring, watch their entire harvest fail in real time. Month 1, the ripple reaches wider. Blueberries, cherries, squash, watermelon. Crops that rely almost completely on insect pollination begin to shrink or disappear from fields. Wind-pollinated staples like wheat, rice, and corn survive. They never needed bees, so you wouldn't starve immediately, but your diet would flatten. Fewer colors, fewer nutrients. The vibrant, vitamin-rich variety of a normal grocery trip quietly narrows into something plainer and far less alive. This isn't hypothetical, either. It has already happened, in miniature, in one corner of China. In parts of Sichuan province, decades of heavy pesticide use wiped out the wild bee populations that once pollinated the region's pear orchards. So the farmers adapted the only way they could. Every spring, workers climbed the trees themselves, carrying brushes made of chicken feathers and cigarette filters, dipping them into jars of pollen and touching them to each blossom by hand. One tree can take a full day for a single person to finish. It is slow, exhausting, and it works, barely. But it is also a preview, a glimpse of what a bee-less agriculture actually looks like when you strip away the machine that used to do it for free. Economists have tried to put a number on that free labor. Estimates put the value of insect pollination to global agriculture somewhere between $200 and $350 billion a year. Not because bees get paid, because replacing them, tree by tree, blossom by blossom, would cost that much in human hands alone. Here's the twist almost nobody talks about. Bees don't just feed you, they feed everything around you. Wildflowers, hedgerows, forest understories. Nearly 90% of flowering plants on Earth depend on animal pollinators, mostly insects, to reproduce. Remove bees, and entire plant populations stop making seeds. Not this year, not next year, but across decades, whole species quietly fail to replace themselves. Forests thin, meadows fade into grass and weeds, birds and small mammals that ate those seeds and berries begin disappearing too. It's not an event, it's an unraveling. If you've made it this far, you already know you're not the kind of person who scrolls past this stuff. You feel something when you think about a world with fewer flowers in it. This channel exists for people exactly like you. Hit subscribe, because every week there's another thread like this one, worth understanding before it quietly comes undone. Now here's the part that should really unsettle you. Bees have been doing this job for over 100 million years, since flowering plants first appeared alongside them in the age of dinosaurs. It's one of the oldest partnerships in the history of life on Earth. Flowers evolved bright colors and sweet nectar specifically to seduce insects into carrying their pollen. Bees evolved fuzzy bodies built to trap that pollen almost by accident. Neither species planned it. It just worked, generation after generation, for longer than mountains have existed in their current shape. And in a single human lifetime, we've pushed that partnership to the edge. Pesticides disrupt a bee's ability to navigate home. Monoculture farming replaces wildflower meadows with single crops that bloom once and offer nothing the rest of the year. Climate shifts scramble the timing between when flowers open and when bees emerge, so they miss each other entirely. Scientists like Dave Golson, who has spent decades studying bumblebee decline, describe it less as one dramatic extinction, slow, quiet, easy to miss until the silence in the hive is the only thing left. And yet, in the middle of all that quiet damage, there's something almost stubborn about how the story keeps refusing to end. In cities from London to Los Angeles, rooftop hives are multiplying. Highway medians are being reseeded with wildflowers instead of mowed grass. Farmers who once sprayed on a schedule are learning to spray only when they must, and to leave a ragged, unmanicured strip along the edge of every field, just for the insects. None of it undoes 100 million years of damage in a decade, but it means the ending isn't written yet. It means the thread, frayed as it is, hasn't snapped. So what would actually happen if all the bees disappeared tomorrow? Not collapse, not overnight famine, something slower and somehow sadder, a gradual dimming, fewer almonds on the shelf, fewer wildflowers in the ditch beside the road, fewer birds because there are fewer seeds, a world that still runs, but runs a little grayer, a little quieter, a little less abundant than the one you grew up in. And maybe that's the real answer hiding underneath the question. You've probably walked past a bee 1,000 times without noticing it, sat in a park, watched one land on a flower for 2 seconds and move on. It never asked for your attention, it never needed your permission. It was just quietly holding up a piece of the world you live in, one flower at a time. Next time you see one, you might not walk past so quickly, because you finally understand what disappears in that silence, not just an insect, but the invisible machinery behind everything you thought would simply always be there.